The vast emptiness of space held few secrets for Aurora Station. Suspended in Mars' orbit, the Deep Space Listening Post represented humanity's ears to the cosmos, its massive dish arrays perpetually scanning the depths for signs of intelligence. Most days brought nothing but stellar background noise and the occasional pulsar blip. Today was different. Dr. Mara Reyes adjusted her headset and squinted at the frequency analyzer. 20 hours into her shift, the xenolinguist's eyes burned from staring at waveform patterns, but she refused to relinquish her post to the relief team. Something had been nagging at her all day, a subtle pattern buried in the noise from the direction of Tauceti. "You're going to burn out those pretty brown eyes if you don't take a break," said Commander Kira Takahashi, Aurora Station's security chief. She placed a steaming mug beside Mara's console. "Green tea. The real stuff, not synthesized." Mara accepted the offering without looking up. "Thanks, but I'm onto something. See this modulation? It's repeating every 87 seconds. Takahashi leaned over her shoulder, dark hair falling forward as she studied the display. "Could be a pulsar. Too irregular. And look at the frequency shifts, they're mathematical. Prime numbers." Takahashi straightened, her hand resting lightly on the sidearm that never left her hip, even in the relative safety of the station. Old habits from the border conflicts died hard. "Should I be concerned?" Mara finally tore her gaze from the screen. "Probably nothing. But if it isn't..." She let the implication hang between them. 20 years of peace had made humanity complacent. After the rapid colonization of 3 nearby star systems, Proxima Centauri, Tau Ceti, and Epsilon Eridani, the initial fears of hostile alien contact had faded. Soldiers like Takahashi had been repatriated from frontier outposts, military budgets slashed, and diplomatic corps expanded. Earth unified under the banner of the Terran Concordat, presenting a single governmental face to the cosmos, even as internal politics remained as messy as ever. Aurora Station existed precisely for moments like this, to serve as an early warning system, to listen for whispers in the dark. Most days brought mundane transmissions, asteroid belt mining operations reporting titanium yields, warnings about solar flare activity, transport schedules between Earth and the colonies. The routine had become so predictable that the station's complement of 50 specialists often joked they were the most overqualified radio operators in human history. Mara returned to her work, dismissing Takahashi with a distracted wave. The security chief sighed and continued her rounds, boots clicking against the polished floor of the command center. Hours passed. The station's day-night cycle dimmed the ambient lighting to simulate evening. Most personnel retreated to their quarters or the recreation deck. Mara remained, now alone in the monitoring bay, her console the only source of illumination. The pattern persisted, growing clearer as she adjusted filtering algorithms. Not natural. Definitely not random. Her heart rate accelerated. This wasn't stellar noise or human chatter. At precisely 03:14 station time, everything changed. A brilliant spike erupted across her display, the signal strength instantly overwhelming the station's sensitive receivers. Alarms blared as automatic safeguards engaged. Mara's fingers flew across the interface, fighting to preserve the data stream before the systems could shut down. "Red alert! Unidentified signal! Maximum amplitude! Bearing 147 Mark 38!" she shouted into her comm unit. "This is not a drill!" Within moments, the command center flooded with personnel. Takahashi at the lead, weapon drawn as if she could somehow shoot whatever was transmitting the signal. "Status report," Takahashi demanded, holstering her sidearm when she saw no immediate threat. Mara's voice trembled with excitement and fear. "It's a directed transmission, Commander. Pulse modulated in an unknown code structure, but the pattern is unmistakable." She swallowed hard. "It's an SOS. "You're certain?" "The mathematical signature is universal. Triple pulse, triple sustained, triple pulse, distress call. But that's not all. She pointed to a secondary display where her decryption algorithms were already working. There's embedded data. Lots of it. Takahashi's expression hardened. Could be a trap, or a test from command. No Earth-based system could generate this signal strength from this distance. And look at the carrier wave properties. They're like nothing in our database. Station Director Powell pushed through the gathering crowd, his pajamas visible beneath a hastily donned uniform jacket. Dr. Reyes, are you telling me we're receiving a genuine alien transmission? Mara met his gaze steadily. Yes, sir. First contact, or rather, first communication in 2 decades of listening. How long until you can decode the full message? She glanced at the decryption progress. Hours, maybe days depending on complexity. You have 6 hours, Powell said grimly. I've already alerted Earth Command. The President is convening an emergency session. He turned to Takahashi. Commander, implement Security Protocol Omega. No communications in or out except through secure channels. If this is what Dr. Reyes believes, everything changes today. 6 hours stretched to 18 as Mara worked without rest, fueled by stimulants and the adrenaline of discovery. When the breakthrough came, it wasn't gradual but sudden. Her linguistic algorithm found the key, and the alien message unfurled across her screen in approximated English. Velari under siege, Krugan onslaught. 7 words that would mobilize humanity and forever alter its place in the galaxy. Within 48 hours, President Li Mei stood before the hastily assembled Leadership Council in the Martian capital of Olympus City. The chamber, carved directly into the side of Olympus Mons, bristled with security measures and the tension of those gathered. Military commanders in formal dress uniforms sat beside scientific directors in rumpled lab coats. Colonial representatives argued with Earth bureaucrats. Dr. Mara Reyes occupied a seat near the center, still processing her newfound fame as the woman who heard the cosmos cry for help. President Li, a diminutive figure whose presence nonetheless dominated the room, activated the holographic display at the chamber's center. A 3-dimensional star map materialized, highlighting a system some 28 light-years from Earth. The Velari signal originated here, she began without preamble. Our deep space telescopes have confirmed unusual energy signatures, consistent with large-scale military operations. The message Dr. Reyes decoded appears accurate. We are witnessing an interstellar war. Admiral Reyes, no relation to Mara despite sharing her surname, stood from his position at the military table. Madam President, while this discovery is significant, I must advise caution. We have no treaty obligations to these. Velari, intervention risks exposing Earth and our colonies to a threat we know nothing about. And what of our moral obligations, Admiral? This from Dr. Eliza Mbeki, Earth's preeminent ethicist. A civilization has specifically reached out to us for aid. Can we in good conscience ignore such a plea? We don't even know if we can help, countered General Washington. For all we know, both these species possess technology far beyond our own. Mara cleared her throat. All eyes turned to her. With respect, General, I've continued analyzing the message. It contains technical data, specifications of both Velari and Krugan ships. While their faster-than-light technology exceeds ours, their weapon systems appear comparable to our most advanced prototypes. The Velari are clearly a peaceful species whose defensive capabilities were overwhelmed. The Krugans rely on brute force rather than technological superiority. President Li nodded. Thank you, Dr. Reyes. Which brings us to the central question: do we intervene? The debate raged for hours. Economic advisors warned of the cost. Military strategists argued about tactics for a battlefield light years away. Ethicists weighed the moral implications of action versus inaction. In the end, President Li silenced the chamber with a raised hand. I have made my decision. Humanity will answer this call. She turned to Admiral Reyes. Admiral, Initiate Project Awakening. A murmur swept through the room. Project Awakening. The contingency plan developed, but never implemented, after the border conflicts. The mobilization of humanity's most elite fighting force. The Deathworlder Rapid Response Fleet. Admiral Reyes saluted sharply. Yes, Madam President. DRRF will be operational within 72 hours. You have 48, President Lee replied. Dr. Reyes, you will accompany the fleet as our xenolinguistic expert. Commander Takahashi will serve as security liaison. She surveyed the room. Make no mistake. Today, we announce humanity's presence on the galactic stage. Let us ensure it is remembered as a moment of courage, not cowardice. As the council dispersed, Mara found herself walking alongside Takahashi toward the transport bay. Didn't expect to be shipping out to an alien war when I decoded that signal, she said, attempting humor to mask her apprehension. At least you'll have familiar company, Takahashi replied. I've been assigned as your security detail. Apparently, the most important linguist in human history needs protection. Mara grimaced. I'm just a scientist who got lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. You heard what others missed. Takahashi checked her timepiece. Our shuttle leaves in 20 minutes. The Vigilant is already in orbit, taking on supplies and personnel. The Vigilant? DRRF flagship. Most advanced warship humanity has ever built. Then mothballed when the peace lobby gained control. Now, she flies again. Something like satisfaction colored Takahashi's voice. And Admiral Reyes wants us on the bridge when she does. The DRRF Vigilant dwarfed every other vessel in Mars orbit. 2 kilometers of sleek, matte black hull, bristling with weapon emplacements and sensor arrays. Originally designed as the spearhead of humanity's defensive fleet. Budget cuts and changing political winds had left her nearly complete, but uncrewed. A silent sentinel above the red planet. Now she swarmed with activity, as shuttles ferried personnel and supplies to her cavernous docking bays. Inside, engineers raced to bring long-dormant systems online, while officers established command protocols and Marines drilled in the vast training chambers. Admiral Reyes greeted Mara and Takahashi in the ship's primary briefing room, a circular chamber dominated by a tactical display table. Dr. Reyes, Commander, welcome aboard. The Admiral gestured to 2 other officers already seated. Allow me to introduce your primary team, Lieutenant Soren Cade, our tactical specialist, and Dr. Lin May, Chief Engineer. Cade, a lean man with close-cropped hair and eyes that seemed to calculate distances, even in casual conversation, offered a curt nod. Dr. Lin, by contrast, beamed with enthusiasm, her lab coat adorned with dozens of tool-filled pockets. Quite the ship you've awakened, Admiral, Lin said, her accent hinting at the Mars colonies. Though I've already identified 14 critical systems requiring immediate modification if we're to engage an alien fleet. Admiral Reyes raised an eyebrow. You've been aboard less than 6 hours, Doctor. 6 hours, 17 minutes, she corrected. More than enough time to determine the plasma containment systems are calibrated for Earth standard engagement parameters. We'll need flexibility for unknown weapon types. Make your modifications, the Admiral conceded. Lieutenant Cade, status of our combat teams? Cade activated a portion of the display table, showing troop deployments throughout the ship. Marine units at 87% readiness. The veterans are sharp, but we have too many fresh recruits. I've implemented accelerated combat simulations based on the Velari data. Will they be ready? Takahashi asked. Cade's eyes flicked to her, assessing. They'll have to be, Commander, unless you'd prefer to face the Krugans alone. That's enough, Admiral Reyes interrupted. Dr. Reyes, what more have you learned from the Velari message? Mara stepped forward, placing her data tablet on the table. The display shifted to show complex waveforms and translated text. The Velari are an ancient species. Admiral, their civilization has existed for nearly 50,000 years. but they evolved on a low-gravity world with minimal environmental pressures. They developed technology rather than physical adaptations. Whereas humans evolved on a death world, Cade interjected, high gravity, extreme climate variations, predators, disease. Precisely, Mara nodded. To the Velari, we're the equivalent of soldiers born in a crucible. Their message specifically sought help from, and I quote, the hardy people of the third planet. They've been observing us for centuries. Admiral Reyes frowned. That's somewhat disconcerting. They're watchers by nature, not conquerors. The Krugen, however, Mara displayed another set of data. Everything suggests they're an expansionist empire that encountered the Velari approximately 1 local year ago. Negotiations failed, and invasion followed shortly after. And the Velari waited until now to call for help? Takahashi asked. Their culture places enormous value on self-sufficiency. Asking for aid is seen as a profound admission of need, undertaken only in the direst circumstances. Mara's expression grew somber. By the time they sent this message, their outer colonies had already fallen. Their homeworld is likely under direct assault now. Admiral Reyes straightened. Then we have no time to waste. All of you, to your stations. We depart Mars orbit in 6 hours. He fixed each of them with a stern gaze. What we do in the coming days may well determine humanity's standing among the stars for generations to come. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and above all, show these Krugans why Earth species are not to be trifled with. The Vigilant, accompanied by 2 smaller cruisers, the Defiant and the Intrepid, broke Mars orbit with a burst of fusion engines that momentarily outshone the sun from the planet's surface. Inside the flagship's bridge, Mara watched in fascination as the stars distorted around them. Alcubierre drive engaging, announced the helm officer. Warp bubble stable. We are now traveling at 50 times light speed. Not fast enough, muttered Admiral Reyes. Dr. Lin, can we push it further? Lin's voice came through the comm system from engineering. The drive wasn't designed for prolonged high-velocity transit. Admiral, I can give you bursts of up to 75 light speed, but only for 12 hours at a time before cooldown. Do it. Every hour counts. Mara returned to her temporary workstation, continuing to analyze the Velari data. The more she learned, the more concerned she became. The Velari were essentially pacifists, their technology geared toward exploration and communication rather than warfare. The Krugen, by contrast, had evolved from pack predators on a resource-poor world, developing a culture that prized conquest and acquisition. You look troubled, Takahashi observed, taking the adjacent seat. The Velari and Krugen represent opposite ends of a spectrum, Mara replied. One advanced through cooperation, the other through dominance. And here we are, humanity, somehow caught in between. Which are we more like, in your assessment? Mara considered the question. Neither, and both. We've waged terrible wars among ourselves, but we've also created art that touches the soul. We're capable of great cruelty and tremendous compassion, often in the same individual. Which is why we're uniquely suited to this mission, Takahashi concluded. We understand both the Velari desire for peace and the Krugen drive for conquest. Their conversation was interrupted by a proximity alert. Lieutenant Cade rushed to the tactical station. Multiple contacts emerging from warp, bearing 037 Mark 12, Krugen configuration. Admiral Reyes leapt to his feet. Battle stations! All hands prepare for combat! The ship's lighting shifted to red as klaxons sounded throughout the vessel. Mara gripped her console as the Vigilant executed a sharp maneuver, narrowly avoiding an energy blast that streaked past the viewports. They've found us, Takahashi said grimly, drawing her sidearm, as though Krugen boarding parties might materialize on the bridge at any moment. How? Demanded Admiral Reyes. We're still in interstellar space, nowhere near the Velari system. Cade's fingers flew across his console. Analyzing their approach vector. Sir, they must have detected the Velari transmission and anticipated a response. They've been waiting along likely approach routes. An ambush, Reyes growled. Status of the Defiant and Intrepid. Holding formation, shields at maximum. Krugen force consists of 7 vessels, corvette class. They're faster than us, but less heavily armed. Mara studied the tactical display, an idea forming. Admiral, may I suggest something? Reyes nodded sharply. The Velari data includes Krugen communication frequencies. If we broadcast on those bands, we might confuse them long enough to gain advantage. Do it, ordered Reyes. Lieutenant Cade, prepare for attack pattern Delta. We'll split their formation and pick them off individually. What followed was a dance of ships against the backdrop of stars. The Vigilant feigned vulnerability, drawing 4 Krugen vessels into pursuit, while the Defiant and Intrepid circled a flank. As the Krugens closed for the kill, Mara broadcast a series of commands on their frequencies, contradictory orders, and false reports of human reinforcements. Confusion rippled through the Krugen formation. 2 vessels broke off pursuit. Another slowed to verify the transmissions. In that moment of hesitation, the Vigilant wheeled about, bringing its main batteries to bear. Blinding lances of energy struck the lead Krugen ship, shearing through its shields and rupturing its hull. "One down," reported Cade. Defiant and Intrepid engaging the flanking vessels. The battle raged for 20 minutes, an eternity in space combat. When it ended, 3 Krugen ships had been destroyed, 2 captured, and the remaining 2 had fled back into warp. The Intrepid sustained moderate damage to its propulsion systems, but there were no human casualties. In the aftermath, Mara found herself in the ship's medical bay, treating a minor burn sustained when her console overloaded during the fight. Dr. Lin occupied the adjacent bed, her right arm wrapped in regenerative bandages. "Not bad for our first alien encounter," Lin remarked cheerfully, despite her injury. "Though I'd have preferred one with less shooting." "Admiral Reyes is interrogating the Krugen prisoners now," Mara said. "I've been asked to assist with translation, and I should be in engineering," Lin sighed. "The warp drive took a beating. We're limited to 60 light speed until I can realign the quantum matrices." Takahashi entered the medical bay, her uniform singed, but her bearing as correct as ever. "Dr. Reyes, Dr. Lin, glad to see you both intact. Dr. Reyes, your presence is requested in Detention Block A. The Admiral is having difficulty with our guests." The Krugen prisoners proved more imposing in person than Mara had anticipated, standing nearly 2.5 meters tall, their bodies covered in articulated exoskeletal plates. They resembled bipedal crustaceans with 4 manipulator arms and eyes that swiveled independently on stalks. Despite being restrained behind energy barriers, they radiated menace. Admiral Reyes stood before the cell, frustration evident in his posture. "Dr. Reyes, our translation algorithms are struggling. These creatures refuse to engage." Mara approached cautiously. "The Velari data suggests a hierarchical communication structure. Have you determined which one is highest ranking?" "The one with the red markings, we believe." Mara studied the Krugen leader, noting the elaborate patterns etched into its shell. Drawing on the Velari linguistic database, she composed a greeting and broadcast it through the cell's communication system. The effect was immediate. All 3 Krugens recoiled, their eye stalks extending fully in what she interpreted as surprise. "You speak the tongue of prey," the leader rasped in accented but understandable English. "Yet you are not Velari." "I am Dr. Mara Reyes of Earth," she replied. "We intercepted a distress call from the Velari and are responding." The Krugen made a clicking sound that the translation matrix couldn't interpret. "Deathworlders," it finally said. "We suspected your kind might exist, but not in this sector. You should return to your territory. This conflict does not concern you." Admiral Reyes stepped forward. "It became our concern when the Velari asked for help. Why are you attacking their worlds? Resources. Territory. The natural order. The Krugen's mandibles clacked in what might have been amusement. The strong consume the weak. This is the way of all things. Not all things, Mara countered. Cooperation has evolutionary advantages too. Symbiosis often produces better outcomes than predation. Philosophy from prey, dismissed the Krugen. You travel to your deaths. The Velari will fall, and if you stand with them, so will you. Admiral Reyes had heard enough. Return them to their cells. Dr. Reyes, with me. In the corridor outside, Reyes shook his head. Charming species. Any insights? They're supremely confident, Mara observed. But also curious about us. They called us Deathworlders, a term the Velari used as well. I think they're reassessing their strategy now that we've entered the equation. Good. Uncertainty creates hesitation. Reyes consulted his datapad. We'll reach the Velari system in 14 hours at current speed. Lieutenant Cade is already developing tactical scenarios, based on what we've learned from the prisoners. Sir, Mara ventured, have you considered a diplomatic approach? The Krugen understand strength, but they might also understand mutual benefit. Diplomacy backed by firepower. Doctor, we'll try words first, but we're preparing for war. His expression softened slightly. Get some rest. I need you sharp when we arrive. The Velari home system came into view exactly as their data had described. 7 planets orbiting a yellow star slightly smaller than Sol. The fourth world, a gleaming blue-green jewel that had once been the center of a peaceful civilization. Now, it was surrounded by a cloud of debris and Krugen warships. Count 37 Krugen vessels, reported Lieutenant Cade from Tactical. Mixed classes, most concentrated in high orbit above the Velari homeworld. Significant debris suggests they've already destroyed the orbital defense platforms. Life signs on the planet? Admiral Reyes demanded. Scattered population centers, mostly in the southern hemisphere. Northern continent shows heavy bombardment damage. Mara stared at the view screen in horror. The Velari capital, a sprawling crystal city according to their data, lay in ruins. Smoke visible even from orbit. We're too late, she whispered. No, Takahashi countered firmly. They're still fighting. Look. She indicated energy flares rising from the planet's surface. Ground-based defensive batteries still active in isolated pockets. Admiral Reyes studied the tactical display. The Krugen fleet outguns us more than 10-1, but they're dispersed. If we strike hard and fast at their command ships, we might create enough confusion to even the odds. He opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, prepare for combat operations. Launch all fighters on my mark. Marine teams to drop ships. Prepare for ground deployment. Ground deployment? Takahashi questioned. Sir, we don't have enough forces to win a conventional ground war. No, Reyes agreed. But we don't need to. We need to reach the Velari leadership and coordinate a counterattack using their remaining forces. He pointed to a location on the southern continent. Intelligence suggests their government relocated to this underground complex when the attack began. Lieutenant Cade will lead the ground team. Cade nodded grimly. My Marines are ready, Admiral. Dr. Reyes, you'll accompany them. We'll need your linguistic skills to facilitate cooperation. Mara swallowed hard. Yes, sir. Commander Takahashi, you have tactical command of our fighter squadrons. Dr. Lin will coordinate from engineering to ensure maximum shield efficiency against Krugen weapons. As the officers dispersed to their stations, Admiral Reyes activated the fleet-wide communication system. Attention all, DRRF personnel. In moments, we engage an alien force in defense of another alien species. This is not a scenario any of us trained for. Yet it is the mission humanity has accepted. Remember, we are not just fighting for the Velari today. We are defining humanity's place among the stars. Show these Krugens what it means to provoke the defenders of Earth. Ray is out. The battle began with a precision strike against the Krugen flagship, the massive Iron Dominion. The Vigilant dropped out of warp, dangerously close, its main batteries firing before the Krugens could raise shields. Simultaneously, the Defiant and Intrepid emerged on opposite flanks, launching fighter squadrons that tore through the surprised Krugen picket ships. On the bridge, Admiral Reyes watched the chaos unfold with grim satisfaction. "Press the advantage. Target their communication arrays first. Weapon systems second." Takahashi's voice came through the comm as she led the fighter assault. "Krugen vessels breaking formation. Admiral, their coordination is collapsing." "As expected. Lieutenant Cade, launch dropships now, while their point defenses are occupied." In the Vigilance launch bay, Mara strapped herself into a jump seat aboard Dropship 3, surrounded by fully armored Marines. Lieutenant Cade occupied the seat opposite, checking his tactical display. "Nervous, Doctor?" he asked, noticing her white-knuckled grip on the restraints. "Terrified," she admitted. "I'm a linguist, not a soldier." "Today, you're both." He passed her a sidearm. "Last resort only, but better to have it. Our primary objective is to reach the Velari leadership bunker and establish an alliance. Secondary objective is to assess Krugen ground capabilities for weaknesses." The dropship shuddered as it disconnected from the Vigilance docking clamps. Through the viewport, Mara watched other craft launching alongside them, small and vulnerable against the backdrop of planetary bombardment. "Atmospheric entry in 30 seconds, announced the pilot. "Brace for turbulence." What followed was the most harrowing descent Mara had ever experienced. The dropship corkscrewed through layers of Krugen defensive fire, its hull temperature climbing dangerously as it plunged toward the Velari homeworld. Beside her, the Marines remained stoic, though she noted several muttering what sounded like prayers. They touched down hard in a clearing 2 kilometers from the bunker coordinates, the landing struts absorbing most of the impact, but still throwing Mara against her restraints. "Deploy! Deploy!" shouted Cade, already on his feet and moving toward the ramp. Outside, the Velari world assaulted Mara's senses. The air was thinner than Earth standard, but breathable, tinged with the acrid smell of burning vegetation. The gravity felt unnaturally light, making each step bound higher than intended. Most striking was the landscape, rolling hills covered in iridescent plant life that seemed to pulse with internal light, now scarred by impact craters and weapons fire. "Movement ahead," called a Marine scout, humanoid, not Krugen. Cade signaled the squad to take defensive positions as Mara stepped forward, activating her translation module. "We come from Earth," she broadcast in the Velari language gleaned from their data. "We received your distress call and are here to help." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the underbrush parted to reveal the most elegant beings Mara had ever seen. Standing nearly as tall as the Krugen, but willowy and graceful, the Velari resembled elongated humans with opalescent skin that shifted colors with their emotions. Their large, multifaceted eyes regarded the human party with unmistakable hope. "The Deathworlders have come," said one, stepping forward. Unlike the Krugen, its voice was melodious, even through the translator. "I am Speaker Elena, last functioning member of the High Council. You risk much by coming here." Mara inclined her head respectfully. "The risk is necessary. We couldn't ignore your call." "Many did," Elena replied. "We sent our message to 17 potentially spacefaring civilizations. Only yours responded." The Velari's skin rippled with a pattern that the translation matrix identified as gratitude. "Come. Our sanctuary is not far, though Krugen ground forces patrol the region." Lieutenant Cade organized their combined group into a defensive formation, with Velari guides at the center and Marine fire teams at front and rear. They moved quickly through the alien forest, using the bioluminescent vegetation as cover. Twice they encountered Krugen patrols. The first they evaded, The second forced a brief, intense firefight that left 3 Krugans dead and 1 Marine wounded. Mara helped treat the injury, applying a regenerative patch to the plasma burn on the young soldier's arm. "Didn't expect my first deployment to be on another planet," the Marine grimaced through pain. "One hell of a story to tell my kids someday." "If we survive," Mara said, securing the bandage. "Oh, we'll survive," the Marine replied with surprising confidence. "Humans always do. It's what we're best at." The Velari sanctuary turned out to be a vast underground complex. Its entrance concealed beneath what appeared to be a natural rock formation, but was actually an advanced holographic projection. Inside, hundreds of Velari had taken refuge, along with preserved specimens of their world's unique flora and fauna, a desperate attempt to save something of their civilization, should the worst occur. Speaker Elena led them to a central chamber, where a 3-dimensional display showed the ongoing space battle. Mara was heartened to see the Vigilant still intact, though clearly damaged, leading the Krugan flagship on a chase through the system's asteroid belt. "Your vessels fight with unexpected effectiveness," Elena observed. 3 ships against a Krugan warfleet should be impossible odds." "Humans specialize in beating impossible odds," Cade replied. "Now, what forces do you still have operational? We need to coordinate a counterattack." Elena's skin darkened to a deep blue. Sorrow, according to Mara's translation matrix. "Our military was dismantled generations ago. What you see defending our world are automated systems and civilian volunteers. We are scholars and artists. Dr. Reyes, not warriors." "Then we'll have to improvise," Cade said. "Those automated defenses, can they be reprogrammed?" A glimmer of hope lightened Elena's coloration. "Yes, our central defense network remains operational, though the Krugans have destroyed many of the physical emplacements." "Show me the network architecture," Cade demanded. While Cade worked with Velari technicians to reconfigure their planetary defenses, Mara established communication with the Vigilant. Admiral Reyes's face appeared on the sanctuary's main display, his uniform scorched and a cut visible on his forehead. "Dr. Reyes, report. We've reached the Velari leadership. Admiral, Lieutenant Cade is coordinating defense strategies now. The Velari lack military forces, but have significant automated systems we can leverage." Reyes nodded. "Good work. We've bloodied the Krugan fleet, but we're running out of tricks. Their flagship is pursuing us through the asteroid belt, but the rest of their forces are regrouping. We need a decisive stroke, and soon." Mara hesitated, then asked, "Sir, have we considered direct communication with the Krugan leadership? The Velari have never attempted to negotiate from a position of strength." "What did you have in mind, Doctor?" "A challenge. Not to their entire fleet, but to their leader personally. The Krugan prisoners indicated their society values individual combat prowess. If we could lure their war chief into a parley..." Admiral Reyes considered this. "It's risky, but we're short on alternatives. Work with Speaker Elena to craft the message. I'll have Takahashi deliver it personally. Her fighter squadron has been most effective against their ships. They'll respect that." Hours later, as Cade's reprogrammed defense network began to turn the tide on the ground, a single human fighter approached the Krugan flagship under flag of truce. Commander Takahashi's voice broadcast on all frequencies in the Krugan language, challenging War Chief Gorak to meet on the surface to discuss terms. To everyone's surprise, the challenge was accepted. The meeting place was symbolic, the shattered terrace of what had once been the Velari High Council chamber, now open to the sky where Krugan bombardment had collapsed the crystal dome. War Chief Gorak arrived with a contingent of guards, his massive form encased in ceremonial battle armor, adorned with trophies from conquered worlds. The human delegation consisted of Admiral Reyes, Commander Takahashi, Lieutenant Cade, and Mara, with Speaker Elena representing the Velari. Despite Cade's objections, they came lightly armed, a calculated risk to demonstrate confidence. "So," rumbled Gorak, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into harsh English. The Deathworlders reveal themselves at last. I had wondered when your kind would emerge from your cradle. Admiral Reyes stepped forward. We prefer the term humans, War Chief, and we emerged because you attacked a peaceful civilization that asked for our help. Help that comes too late. Gorak gestured to the ruins around them. The Velari homeworld is already ours. Your small fleet, impressive though its tactics have been, cannot change this outcome. Perhaps not, Reyes conceded. But we can ensure it costs you more than you're willing to pay. Mara watched the exchange with fascination. The universal translators worked, but cultural nuances remained challenging. She noted how Gorak's eye stalks positioned, one always on Takahashi, who had destroyed 3 of his ships personally. You fight well for newcomers, Gorak acknowledged. Your weapons are primitive but effectively deployed. Your soldiers show commendable savagery. This last seemed almost a compliment. We'd prefer not to fight at all, Mara interjected. The Velari pose no threat to your expansion. Why this war? Gorak's attention swiveled to her. They occupied valuable space. Linguist. Their worlds are resource-rich, but inefficiently utilized. The Krugan Empire needs room to grow. And you believe taking by force is the only option. It is the natural way, Gorak insisted. The strong prevail. The weak perish or serve. Takahashi stepped forward suddenly, her patience exhausted. If strength is your only value, then consider this. We destroyed 1/4 of your fleet with 3 ships. What do you think will happen when Earth sends 100? 1,000? You call us Deathworlders. You have no idea how appropriate that name is. A tense silence followed. Gorak's guards shifted uneasily, weapons half raised. Admiral Reyes placed a restraining hand on Takahashi's shoulder, but his expression showed agreement with her words. It was Speaker Elena who broke the impasse. War Chief Gorak, for millennia, my people have observed other civilizations. We watched your species rise from primitive hunter-gatherers to star travelers. We watched the humans do the same in half the time. Her skin rippled with colors too complex for the translation matrix to interpret. There is another path, one where Krugan expansion continues through cooperation rather than conquest. Pretty words from the defeated, Gorak dismissed. Not defeated, Admiral Reyes corrected. Not while we stand with them. But Speaker Elena offers wisdom you should consider. The galaxy is vast, with resources beyond imagining. Why waste them on war when trade would benefit all? Mara saw something shift in Gorak's posture, the slightest relaxation of his battle stance. Seizing the moment, she stepped closer, ignoring Cade's warning gesture. War Chief, my study of your language reveals a concept unique to Krugan culture. Thrankavor, the glory in recognizing a worthy adversary. Today, you've found not 1, but 2. The Velari have survived despite your expectations. Humans have bloodied your fleet despite being newcomers to space. There is more glory in alliance with such species than in their subjugation. Gorak stood motionless, eye stalks swiveling as he processed her words. Finally, he made a complex series of clicking sounds that her translator couldn't fully capture. The linguist speaks truth, he eventually said. The Krugan have conquered 17 systems without significant resistance. This is new. He straightened to his full height. I will order a cessation of hostilities, but not withdrawal. We will discuss these alternatives to traditional conquest. It wasn't total victory, but it was a beginning. In the days that followed, a fragile peace took hold. Krugan ground forces ceased bombardment and consolidated their positions rather than advancing. The Vigilant and its companion ships maintained orbit, conducting repairs while monitoring the Krugan fleet, which had similarly pulled back to regroup. On the surface, the real work began. Mara found herself central to negotiations between 3 species, with fundamentally different worldviews. The Velari sought preservation of their culture and autonomy. The Krugen demanded resources and recognition of their strength. The humans insisted on guarantees that peace would last beyond their departure. A breakthrough came when Dr. Lin, working with Velari scientists, demonstrated a terraforming technique that could make previously uninhabitable planets in nearby systems suitable for Krugen colonization. A technological exchange that gave the Krugen expansion without conquest. Prisoners from all sides were repatriated. A joint council was established to oversee the fragile alliance, with Mara appointed as Earth's first ambassador to both species. As terms were finalized, Admiral Reyes prepared the fleet for the journey home, their mission successful beyond all expectations. On their final night on the Velari homeworld, Mara stood with Takahashi on the reconstructed terrace of the High Council chamber, watching the planet's 3 moons rise over the horizon. "Think it will last?" Takahashi asked, gesturing to where Velari and Krugen representatives conferred peacefully below. "Nothing lasts forever," Mara replied. "But we've given them a chance. Sometimes that's all diplomacy can do." "And what about us? Earth is about to learn we're not alone in the universe. At least, not in the way we thought. Everything changes now." Mara smiled. "That's what exploration is about, isn't it? Change, discovery, growth." "And danger," Takahashi added pragmatically. "The Velari and Krugen are just the beginning. Who knows what else is out there?" "Who indeed?" murmured Mara, her gaze drawn to the distant stars. Back on Mars, the news feeds blazed with headlines. Deathworlders triumph, humanity brokers, peace among the stars. Public reaction ranged from jubilation to fear, with debates raging about Earth's new role in interstellar politics. Military budgets that had been slashed for decades saw immediate increases. Colonial expansion accelerated as humanity, suddenly aware of its vulnerability and strength, reached outward with renewed purpose. Dr. Mara Reyes became a household name, her linguistic breakthrough celebrated as the key that unlocked humanity's future among the stars. Commander Takahashi received the newly created Star Cross for valor, while Lieutenant Cade was promoted to lead a new division of Marines specialized in extraterrestrial combat. Dr. Lin's terraforming techniques promised to revolutionize colonization efforts throughout human space. Admiral Reyes, addressing the Terran Concordat on their return, put it simply, "We went to the stars prepared for war, but found an opportunity for peace. We must remain vigilant, but also open. The galaxy is more complex and more wondrous than we ever imagined." Yet, even as humanity celebrated, deep space listening posts like Aurora Station detected something new. Faint signals from the galactic rim, bearing patterns too regular to be natural, but unlike any language encountered before. Ancient machine intelligences, dormant for millennia, stirred at the sudden flurry of activity among the younger races. The sleeping giant of humanity had awakened, but it was not the only power rising from long slumber. In her new office overlooking Olympus Mons, Mara analyzed these signals with growing concern. The pattern was unmistakable to her trained ear. A countdown. To what? She could only guess. But as humanity expanded outward, making new allies and potential enemies, she knew with certainty that the Velari distress call had been only the beginning of a much larger story, one in which Earth would play a central role. The Deathworlders had mobilized once. They would do so again.